go a little wider. Brings ball back for Marshall. The footwork. Benji Marshall. Now the speed. The footwork again. Away from Peachy. Passes without looking. Away for Richards. Back to Fitzhenry. That is as good as you will see.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of the SuperCoach Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Dan, coach at Badonkadonk. Tonight, we're going to give you a bit of news, start with the news, and then we're going to talk about the market watch with the trade-ins and trade-outs. And then we're going to answer a few questions tonight as well from our listeners, which is great. And then we'll move on to our captain and trade-in talk. But before we do that, welcome, Glenn. How was your week, mate?
Yeah, nah. I got 1,300, so I did better than you, I guess, from that perspective, but I still dropped down 3,000 ranked, so I'm ranked 9K, mate. I'm in the horrors.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to avoid telling me how much better you did than me, because I'm trying to avoid saying how bad I did this week. So, also tonight, joining with us from SuperCoach 360, we have Ross. Man, welcome, Ross, mate. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be back on. It's been a while, so it's good to be back. Not a great week. Only got 1207, but don't have Talakai or Cleary. Captain Munster, which wasn't too bad, but yeah, all falling behind the pack, mate. Sitting about 35K now, so it's not a good start. Probably the worst one ever.
Yeah, to me, that just sounds like you're bragging, mate. So I'll stop there.
There's no brag there. There's no brag.
And also tonight on loan from SuperCoach 360 as well, we have Timmy O'Connor. Last but not least, mate, how was your week?
Yeah, mate, mine was actually really good. So
shut up.
No, I hadn't my best one yet. So, but got to take the good with the bad, boys. I've had a pretty horrid start to the season this week. I think I had a 1407. Captain Cleary. I've had Cleary since he was named. That was because I started with Turbo, and then basically the guns didn't fire that I started with. So I was all the way back in 65K a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm up into 32. So got up the best part of 30,000 spots in the last couple of rounds.
Good, mate. That just tells me there's hope for the rest of us scum down the bottom here. So.
Absolutely, mate. The plan is slowly coming together. It's just taking a bit longer than I'm used to. I'm certainly well and truly out of my top 1% where I'm normally used to being.
Well, I will say one thing though. That was the main reason why a lot of people started with Turbo as well. So that was like, if you did fail, you had that option to go to someone like Cleary as well. So I'm glad that did work out for you. All right. So first we'll start with the news. So Glenn, what do you got for us, mate?
Okay, it's not a great deal, mate, but I'll quickly get through it. So with the Knights, Gagai to miss at least a month after fracturing a cheekbone, and apparently Heimel Hunt has a similar injury. Brodie Jones named despite his elbow injury. Warriors DWZ is out with concussion. Curran knee will be back round 10 or 11. And Viliami Valier and Berry are named on the wings for the Warriors. Storm lost Remus Smith, HIA. And so Jack Bird's been named, but has to have scans on his wing. So he broke a wing apparently, but he's been named, so it mustn't be too bad. So to be determined. Sharks Finucane, round 8 concussion. So Tracy hasn't come back into the Sharks, which is good for those Talakai owners or Talakai buyers. So he's been named again at CTW, centre wing. Manly, still no word on Turbo or Schuster. Schuster put Manly on notice this round about not being 5'8", so he's a bit shirty about Foreign being the 5'8", and wants to know what's going on going forward. Dylan Brown has been named at centre, which we'll talk about later. Latrell round 13 hammy. The Tigers, so Toa's been named at fullback, Garner centre wing, and Tuolagi's been named to play, and the Tigers have won 2 games in a row. Yeah.
That's a winning streak, Glenn.
It's a streak, mate. We're on. And Sims signed with the Storm, could join mid-season, and Kamakamakar. The charges have been dropped, so he could find his way back onto the bench soon. And the last one is, so this is interesting. So Gus, Phil Gould, has burst into the Dogs training and gives a spray to halves. I watched it on the NRL 360, and I find it quite funny the way that they're going on about Gus and how he's going to cause Barrett to lose his job. If Barrett's going to lose his job, it'd be on merit or lack of merit. So let's look at that, I would imagine. And but I imagine he's getting different flashbacks of all the other coaches that have had to endure the Gus rant. And that's the news, guys.
Wow. Bit of a crazy week this week. So,
yeah.
Oh, alrighty. Let's move on.
Bit harsh for the Bulldogs, but I mean, I don't think the Halves have played that bad. Burton's been a bit average, but I think Flanagan's been good since he's been back in the team.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I just think they should toy with the idea of maybe moving Burton to the centres and giving someone else a crack in the halves. I don't know. Like, just for me, it's not his position. 5/8.
Yeah, I do like that. I do agree 100%. I think Burton will get there eventually. I think when you have a full season playing centre, you're going to try and find your way again in that position where he was always a half. So I think playing the whole season at centre will put your game up a little bit. He'll come good. I'm still upset we lost him, but we've been Penrith, but I think we're surviving quite well without him. So you're
definitely
your 2 wins there, Glen, in a row, mate. That's cute. That's really cute, mate.
Mate, we knocked over the Eels and Souths, mate. We're on a roll. And they'll beat the Dragons this week too.
Oh, God, he's spoken. Yeah, we're going to lose now. Oh.
Yeah, you give me a call when you get to 7 in a row, mate, and I'll
yeah.
What you guys get to 13 or something?
Oh, this is I think it was 21 wins at home in a row. So that's crazy. So, all right, let's move on to Market Watch, guys. We'll start with the most traded in. So number 1 on the list there is Talakai, 699k with a negative 50 break even. I'll start with you, Glenn. Your thoughts on this, mate, being number 1?
Well, I don't know if he should be the highest one traded in, given they've got Cleary and a few others in that list. And like we spoke about earlier, there's Munster and even Cody Walker, I think, could be higher up that list. I'm bringing Talakai in this round, but I'm in a good position where I've got a bit of coin, so I can move Elise Katoa onto him so it doesn't hurt too much the rest of my side. But I'm also going to come out and say something stupid. I'm buying him, but I still don't think this week he gets over 70.
Yeah, I'm on the boat where I feel like I've missed the boat with that guy, and I'm staying away. I'm not staying away from him. I think I just can't get him. I'm going to prioritize someone like Cleary over him. I think it's more of a better long-term play. Honestly, I'm going to hate watching the games. I guarantee. I was in tears in game 1 last week. So, I'm really going to avoid him. I think just because I've got more important things to worry about. Timmy, your thoughts on Talakai?
Yeah, mate, I'm trying to make things work so that he comes into my team this week. I've got about 85 grand or 82K, I think, sitting in the bank. So because of Olakau'atu and his suspension, I can easily just bring him straight in as a straight swap and even hold a second trade. But I really don't want to drop Olakau'atu. I think he's been really good, and he's been a good pod as well. He's not in a lot of teams. So especially with the bye coming up and everything else, he's going to be a really good player to hold on to. So that's sort of, if I can't make it another way, that will be my if all else fails. But I've got Brown. He keeps getting named in the centres. Obviously, he had a good score last week, had a line break, had a try, whatever else. So it's not doom and gloom, but I just did the maths and worked out that I could go Brown down to Cody Walker, and then maybe look at even Max King. I've got him up in the front row, so I'd have to jiggle some things around, and it might be a 1 week play till I can get somebody else up into the front row. But yeah, there's a few options there, but ideally he's got to come in. I think if he's going to make another 100k by stepping on the field and having just about his worst game so far, he makes the best part of 100k. So I think it's a pretty smart play, even if it's a cash grab without points.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're trading in for. Like I believe, like if you've got someone like a Curran, I reckon perfect straight to him. Like even like Glenn mentioned before, you got Katoa there, you would go up to him. That's great as well. But
yeah, I definitely wouldn't be doing it by Olakau'atu. I don't know what other means you have, Timmy, but I mean, you're going to hate what I say here, but I would even go Haas before Olakau'atu. I mean, Haas is going to play Origin. You know, front row won't hurt you as much as second row. I really don't like that trade. I know he's out for a round, but I'd find another way to him, buddy.
Yeah, it's like I say, that it's if all else fails, and I'm sort of trying to look at other options of how I can generate cash. Ideally, I want to do the same move as Glenn and get Eli Katoa up to him. He keeps either not being named, pulled out at the last minute, or named on the bench. His BE this week is only, I think it's only about 40 or 50. Give me 2 seconds, I can have a look at it. But it's so he's got to get some minutes in order for him to start generating cash again. And at the moment, he's only going backwards. So, yeah, Eli Katoa would be the ideal trade. I've just got to try and work it out how to happen.
Unfortunately, to get these guns in, we need to sacrifice elsewhere. So,
exactly.
Ross, your thoughts on Talakai, mate? Do you have him in your team, or are you going to get him in?
I don't, and I can't bring him and Cleary in this week, so I'm going to obviously prioritise Cleary. I think he should be number one on the list for the trade in. Talakai, I think the ship sailed myself personally, just because he's going to make you maybe 100k this week, but he's also not going to be a season keeper, I don't think either. I think he's a two trade, but basic play, because you're going to trade him in, you're going to trade him out. And even Fitzgibbon came out and said the other week that when Tracy's back available, that there's no guarantees that Talakai is going to stay in the centres. So for me, it was a play that probably should happen maybe a week or two ago. I don't hate the play this week. I think, like you said, if you're going Curran to him or something like that, that makes sense. But I wouldn't be tearing apart my team to get Talakai in. I think the Targo to Talakai trade is also a bit sideways as well and backwards, just for the fact that Targo's in a high ceiling club. He's going to play round 13. He's going to lose you a bit of cash, but it doesn't matter. He's still averaging about 60. Which is pretty good for a centre. So, so will he come? No, he won't be coming into my team. I'm not going to tear apart my side to bring him in. I'd rather prioritise Cleary instead.
Yeah, so I will say with Timmy, he actually has Cleary already, so I can understand why he's trying to bring Talakai in, because, in my opinion, there's three people that I'd want to bring in this week. It's IPAP, it's Cleary, and Talakai. And if you've already got one or two of those, it's a lot easier to you're not tearing your team too much to just get one. So that's why I don't mind the idea of, but yeah, like I said, we need to try and find different ways to get him in. So
the only other one I'd add to that list is probably Munster too.
Yeah, Munster's just going up and up. I've had him for a while now, so I think I've got about 100k out of him since I bought him. So I'm pretty happy with that. One of the things that has gone right for me. We'll move on to number two. Trade in this week, and that's Suwali. So I definitely see this one as a number two trade in. People are, you've got a couple of center wings in there that are nicely ripe now. Downgrade them and build that cash up to get your Clearys or your Talakais in. Glenn, your thoughts on that one, mate?
Suwali's a good trade, mate. Plays round 13. He's in a club that we do know can go well. Some of the people that are swapping Targo to him, I think that's insane. Look, Penasini, I don't mind so much. Doesn't play round 13. I think he's at his peak. They have a hard draw coming up round 10. Suwali, I like what I saw from him. He's got really solid base for a centre wing and big body. I think that he'll just warm into that role and he'll get better as the season progresses.
Yeah, with me, I've still got Russell there as well, so I can downgrade Russell to him if I needed to. But the issue there is if someone like Hines, who I'm looking at VCing this week, goes big, I have no NPRs at all. So I need to really focus on. I can bring him in if I need to, but I might need Russell there as my NPR and keep him there. So I might miss out on that because I can't really trade. I don't want to trade Penasini to him. I do like that trade better than Targo for sure, but Penasini's got a single-digit break-even as well himself. So, and my other centre wing there, I got Campbell Graham in there. I'm not trading him. I got Targo. I'm not trading him. I got Stags. Probably the closest thing I do to trade him in, but I think I like what I'll see from Stags coming this week. And then I've got Tyler May as well. So I just can't trade any of these guys to Suwali. So I don't see him being that guy that's going to kill me in a head-to-head. I think he's going to get maybe a good decent 50 here, 60 there. It's not going to kill me like a Talakai has been. So your thoughts on Suwali there, Tim?
Yeah, mate, I've already got him. I brought him in from when he was first named. My thoughts was it was his spot when he came back, regardless of who was in there, whether it was Nguama or whether it was Billy Smith. I always thought that Suwali, it was his spot to get back straight away. So as soon as he was going to be fit, I mean, they poured money into the kid. They got him from Souths. They made sure that no one else was going to touch him. So I think he was pretty much guaranteed game time. He seemed to bulk up a little bit in the off-season as well, which I think has gone a long way in his favour. He's obviously a year older this year. He played his half a dozen games last year before he got injured. But, look, I think it's a great play. I agree with everything you guys have said in regards to Targo and Panasini. Targo's a keeper, or the next closest thing to it for season. I'd lock and hold him. He's going to go up and down, but I can't see him going any lower than 400, 450. He's certainly not going to be like a Jason Saab that goes back to 200 and doesn't get the ball. I agree in that Panasini, I'll be trading him before I trade Targo, but Panasini's got a BE of 8. Suwali, likewise, he's obviously got a BE of 3 as well. So, I mean, it's like for like in a way, and you're banking some cash. But, yeah, I certainly wouldn't be dropping Targo.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Ross, on Suwali?
Oh, well, I had him from the start. I've had him from the get-go, so I knew that he was going to come in eventually. It was just a matter of when, and as far as I'm concerned now, it's his spot to lose. That's the thing. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Billy Smith. I don't know what's going on. He's not on an injured list. He hasn't been named to play New South Wales Cup the last couple of weeks, so I've got no idea what's going on with him. But, yeah, I think, Suwali's definitely a good buy, and I think I've been saying it for the last 4 weeks that the Roosters are going to get going eventually. When they get going, they're going to get going, and he's going to score a lot of tries on that right side. So he's definitely one you should be getting this week for sure. I'll be definitely over anyone like Tarsal, Valave, or whatever his name is as well. So, yeah, definitely got to get on him this week.
Can I just point out one negative on Suwali for people so that they're aware? And Ross brought it up. So Smith, Kevin Nguama and Suwali have somewhat been playing a rotating role there. And so we don't know what's going on with Smith. I mean, it's unlikely, but it's possible that Suwali could drop back out again and Smith could come back in. Kevin Nguama's come in this round for...
Morosky.
Tupu.
Oh, Tupu, sorry. Tupu, that's right. Yeah.
He's been suspended for a week. So I think that Suwali stays there when he drops out, but my fear is there is still that possibility. So just be aware that you have more than 4 centre wingers, so that scenario pops up because you still want to have Suwali for the round 13 bye, and he's an easy trade down to get to a Cleary for those that are looking for money.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. So number 3 on the list, and this is the one that I believe should be number 1, and that's Nathan Cleary, 955, with a very low break even. Glenn, I know you made your thoughts pretty clear on this one. Good trade.
Well, I already own Cleary, and I mean, if you don't own him, he should be your number 1 get this round. It's no more to be said. You know, he didn't even look like he was in full pilot mode in that game, and he still pumped out 150. And same for the game before. He's playing against the Titans, where he scored 225 last season in Magic Round. Get Cleary, guys. And people say we're going to bust my sides to get him. You won't have a side if you don't have him. You're not going anywhere without him. Get him.
Hey Glenn. Who was stressing out after 30 minutes in that game because you captained him?
Some old bloke. Some old bloke, mate. I let him stay sometimes. What I said was I wanted to loot, but every time I loot, it bites me. But to be fair, 97 wasn't a loopable score. It was just me trying to...
Back in the old days, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago.
Mate, I looped 153 times last season, got outscored by Turbo all 3 times. So, yeah. But look, I did have a bit of a meltdown over it. I was like, what's going on here? And everyone in the chat saying, settle pedal, there's still a whole game to go. And yeah.
You disappeared for 12 hours. We were going to start sending the ambos out looking for you. SES.
Well, one thing I'll say about, not just Cleary, but the Panthers, with that massive score line that Melbourne put on the Warriors, I'll be the first to admit that Panthers have been extremely arrogant in our, not very humble in our gracious in our victories. So I reckon they're going to take it personally.
No idea.
No, well, one thing you'll understand about me is I am a very humble fan, and I was actually really annoyed that they did that. I reckon we should settle the crap down and just bloody be humble. We're winning games. Like, let's just take it be professional. It's just, to me, I'm a humble fan. For years and years when we were a terrible team, like fighting for the wooden spoon, I was always going to be a strong supporter. But I remember where we came from, and that annoyed me a lot watching that. And I knew it was happening too because I'm part of all the Panthers fan pages as well on Facebook, so I knew it was happening. And I'm just like, yeah, it was embarrassing. But what I will say is even some of the young Panthers, they're a bit cocky, arrogant. So they're going to see that Melbourne scoreline and they're going to start being relentless even more so. And I reckon they're going to bully these teams and try to beat that Melbourne score. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that happens. I know you've already got him, but your thoughts on Cleary, mate? I think Tim?
Yeah, look, he's must have. And at the start of the season, Glenn and I talked about it a lot in the start of the season. And I'd originally had Cleary, and it was only when he got ruled out that I went to Turbo. It was a pod play from, I mean, we're all in the Podmasters chat. We all talk about it and everything else. Everyone else wasn't going it, so that's why I did. And then it was only because Cleary got ruled out that I went that way. But Cleary was definitely going to be a starter for me from the start of the season. It was a case of the minute he was fit, I brought him straight in for his first game. And, I was disappointed with his first two performances, but obviously he had to test the shoulder and test the legs and everything else. But he was always going to fire.
Yeah, that's right. So, he's got a 48 and a 54, and now he's averaging 100 for the year after 4 games. That's mental. So
that's it. And then when you look at once you captain him, like I've captained him the last 2 rounds, and you double his score, it obviously makes a massive difference to your team too. The plus that I've got now because of the way that I started is apart from IPAP and Talakai, I've basically already got all the big guns. But last week when people were selling Teddy to get Cleary, I've kept Teddy and just checked on him then. Like he's 19%. A couple of weeks ago he was 30 or 40%. So he's now one of the guys that I want to hang on to and not move things around with using his cash to try and get in the other 2 that I don't have. But it is scary not having IPAP and Talakai. So you can't have all the guns, but we're all certainly trying to get there.
That's it. So you've already made your thoughts clear, Ross. You're bringing him in this week, Cleary?
Yeah, definitely going to get him this week. I was going to get him in last week, and I kind of wish I did because I probably would have captained him if I bought him in last week. But stupidly decided to sell Xavier Coates last week instead, and we saw how that worked out for me. So, yeah, look, for me, he should be number 1 on the list, and he's a must-have. But I think for me, I don't know if you guys agree that this has to be the week that you get him.
Yeah.
I don't think after this week it's worth getting him until after the buys.
No.
Just because we're so close to it, and the fact that he's got Parramatta next week, he's got Melbourne the week after, and got Roosters the week after that. Not saying he's not going to score well, but he won't score as well as what he will. And I think he'll score at least 100, if not more, this week against the Titans for sure. So definitely captaincy option for sure this week.
I wouldn't put it past him to go big against Para as well. It's a pretty big rivalry, Penrith and Parramatta, and I can tell you right now, Para's defense is not being the best. Their attack's been really good, obviously, but their defense hasn't been that great. So I think he needs a captain option this week and next week, and even the Melbourne game, I wouldn't probably captain him. Maybe a sneaky VC depending on what time they play. So. All right, so this one here, the next one on the list, number 4, is Tass, cheapie from South. I'm not sure he should be that high up, but I understand why. He's that bottom dollar price and people are trying to make that money. Glenn, your thoughts?
Well, I've actually got a mark on the next 2, Tass and Pates' nose. Look, if you need money and you need to trade down to someone, then sure, get Tass in. But in my opinion, and it could be wrong, unless he has an absolute blinder this game, he goes to the bench next week and becomes an A nightmare. So for me, no.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. I think if you can scrape up any cash at all, you can look at going Sawali instead, and that's really about 15. That's 60. So yeah, about 85k there. If you can scrape 85k, go down to Sawali rather than Tass, which I'm sure you can make that work to free up that same amount of cash. Tim, your thoughts on Tass, mate?
Yeah, look, it's great for a cash grab, but who knows if he plays in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. Because he's in there at the moment for Tane Milne. He's only out for a week, isn't he? And comes back. So that's the tough part. I've been running the gauntlet for the last 3 weeks with 3. Actually, well, no, I shouldn't say that because Cooler got named last week or got to play last week. But the 3 weeks prior, I had an empty bench in my centre wing. So that's the problem with you bringing in those cheap guys. When you're bringing in the guns, all you need is one of those 4. Like I've got May, Targo, Penasine, Suwali, like every man and his dog's probably going to have as their 4 centre wings. If you don't, if you get Tass, and I've got Schiller, Valia, Kula sitting there at the moment. So if you bring in one of those guys, there's every chance next week they don't play, or in a couple of weeks' time. You don't know what's going to happen with the buys just yet because we're still a few weeks out. So, yeah, I can understand it for getting the cash, but it's not necessarily a good move, like what Glenn was saying.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say about that is I'm not trying not to be so pessimistic about Tass. I do agree if you wait a week and watch how he plays this weekend.
Absolutely.
He can win that spot on merit. Because I know we've already discussed his filming that the centre in that side has been terrible for South. So if he can prove himself and actually be that, which I reckon he can, but if he can prove himself and potentially steal that spot from Milne, which I reckon is possible, but in saying that, we can still wait a week for that because his price isn't going up. So your thoughts, Ross?
Yeah, I'm a bit undecided whether I'm going to bring him in this weekend or not because I do need a cheapie CTW to get Cleary in, but I don't hate the play, but I just don't know if he's going to stay in the team. For me personally, I'd have him in the team over Josh Mansell, but I'm not the coach. I'm not Demetrio. I don't know what he's going to do. Milne hasn't been great either, to be honest with you. So you've got Jackson Paulo still out of the team too that hasn't got a game for a while. So I'd actually have Valavea from the Warriors ahead of him just because the fact that he's going to play round 13 if he's still in the team. And he's probably job security is probably a bit better, to be honest with you. But obviously, when DWZ comes back in a week or two from his concussion, either Valavey or Berry's going to drop out, so someone's going to miss out. But I wouldn't be bringing him in just for a cash grab. I just think it's not worth it. I don't think he'll stay on the bench. I think if he's not in the centres or on the wing, he won't be in the team at all. So. The only thing I can say is he can be good for your loop and he won't lose your cash. But yeah, it's something I'm looking at, but I'm not sure yet. I don't know. But obviously, I can only think that most people have got Suwali already that are bringing him in, and they just need that cheaper option.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
If the trade-offs to get Cleary, then I understand it.
Yeah. Here's a question for you guys though. If you were to be able to choose between Tass or a Nuff, what would you choose? Would you be thinking potentially enough to not have the AE Nightmare potentially in the future, or Glenn?
I'd go Tass. I mean, there's a lot of game to go yet, and he is the next one in that rotation. I'm sure Tass will play football.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't be looking at Nuffs now, way too early. I mean, at least there's a chance to play, but it is a fear for an AE Nightmare for me that,
Yeah, I only asked that just because I have heard people talking about nothing to avoid the AE Nightmare. So I just wanted to say to everyone that I totally agree with you that we probably shouldn't be nothing until about round 17. I agree with.
Can I just add on that? If you do want enough, the place to do that would be in the front row. That's the position that hurts you less. So an Andrew Fafita down to enough if you really needed cash. Even a Max King. I wouldn't be doing a Max King because he plays round 13, you'll get you. But I mean, some of those, a James Tadua Brown, one of those kind of type players, because the front row is a position where you can quite comfortably run enough. And I mean, you've got the rest of the squad churning cash and you've got that one Nuff up there to use as your loop. The front row is the least dangerous position that can hurt you points wise.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I won't go too much on it because we'll talk about more in depth next week when we discuss our buy planning. But I like to start Nuffing in around 17, and I pick players that have been selected for Origin that are playing that game, and like you get those cheapies that might be they'll play that one game over Origin while the guys are out, and then they're gone. So you actually save 2 trades essentially because you're getting a buy player and you've now got that Nuff as well. So we'll talk about it more in detail next week. But yeah. All right. So finally, the last on the top 5 traded in. This one also surprised me a little bit. I think this may update, but Pakes from Brisbane, 237. Got a nice little score last week, but he's been reverted back to the bench. Glenn, your thoughts on Pakes?
Just don't do it. I mean, he played, 26 minutes? I mean, I actually have him in my draft side, and I didn't play him. And I could have taken his score just by nuffing a player out, but I ended up not doing because that would have been Madison I nuffed out, and I'm not going to do that, even though I had him on the bench. I just took his score. But I mean, 26 minutes. I mean, who wants a player that's going to play 26 minutes? It's an AE nightmare. Look, I like Pakes, and I think that if Broncos run him, get all over it, because I like the player. There's nothing wrong with the guy. It's the minutes, like those two spots you want to be looking at, either a Grant or a Cook. That other one needs to be a Randall or a Starling. You need to be building that one towards the buy round. So you want to be finding, run a gun or two guns or one gun and a buy round player. So Pakes is just making you further away from that option.
Yeah, I totally agree. Timmy, your thoughts on Pakes, mate?
Yeah, look, I love him as a player. I'm a Broncos member, and I think he should be starting hooker, but that's my opinion. I think them messing around, they're trying to find a spot for Walters and keeping him in and around the squad. I understand why they're trying to do it, but it's obviously not helping our super coach, because you can't touch any of the halves there. So, yeah, look, great player, but just not for super coach, not till he guaranteed 50 or 60 minutes and starting.
I'll tell you, I was a bit surprised when he didn't get named on the starting role after the little game he had last week. It was pretty impressive. But one thing I will say is how much better Stag scores when Walters is playing hooker as well. So I'm really liking the idea of one of my options was to trade Stags out this week to help me get some cash to get the guns in. And I was like, when I saw that, Walters was named there, I'm like, I'm going to play him so hard this week. He's going to do really well. Your thoughts on Pakes, Ross?
Well, I was looking at bringing him in just to trade out Randall to get a cheaper hooker option, but I don't like the fact that he's not playing many minutes. I don't like the fact that Jake Turpin's due back in a week or two as well. So I don't know whether Walters is going to get rid of Pakes or whether he's going to bench Walters or what he's going to do. I don't know, but I rate Pakes. I think he's a gun player, and I think at any other decent club he would be the starting hooker at any other club. And I liked what I saw from him in the trial games too, because he ripped it up in the trial games at the start of the season too. And I thought, here we go, he's going to be the main hooker and he's going to get decent minutes. But I'm kind of off it now. I just think for 26 minutes, like you look at his other scores he's made, he played a decent minutes, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then he scored like 20 points or something. So it's going to be a slow cash burner if you do it. He has got any negative break even, but he's not going to make you a lot of cash. He's not going to make you enough to go, okay, in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to trade him up to Tom Starling for buy coverage, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that I was getting little deja vu flashbacks when I saw he was on this list, and I was getting those flashbacks of Will Smith at the start of the year. And this is almost the exact same thing. So I just wanted to give everyone that warning that I definitely avoid that just for now. I just don't think it's a decent option there. Like I reckon if you're doing anything, you either upgrade Randall or you keep him for a bit longer because he's not losing any money. But I wouldn't play him this week either. So, but yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it for the trade-in. So, is there any? I'll start with you, Glenn. Is there any other people or other players you'd want to trade in that aren't on that list, or players that you think maybe should be a bit higher on that list?
Yeah, I think Cameron Munster, mate. I think Cameron Munster should be right up on that list for people. And anyone from the Storm, mate, you want to be chasing that spine. I think that with Brown moving to centre wing this week, and we'll answer that in the viewer questions a bit later on, I think that should be pretty much a foregone, Brown to Munster. So if you own Brown, I'd be looking at that option.
Yeah, I like that as well. I've already got Munster, so I'm pretty happy with that. I've been very happy with that, all the scores he's been giving me. So, Timmy, any players that you we haven't mentioned yet that you might want to bring in?
There's some guys down in centre wing that I'll be keeping an eye on. I know Tigers only just had a win on the weekend, or another win on the weekend, but I think some of the wingers may be worth a look. Some pedigree there, but yeah, I'd be trying to look now, I guess, for the low ownership buy players. If you just start looking towards 13, that would be once I've sorted out all my guns, that's my next port of call. Just start looking at round 13 players and going from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at doing at the moment. So, Ross, any players you think should be highly traded in this week?
Definitely Cameron Munster for sure. Definitely should be up there. And I think Cody Walker should be up there too somewhere. Yeah. He should be definitely up there. I mean, his price is right. They've got a good draw coming up. He's not going to play Origin, but yes, he won't play the first bye, but he'll play the second bye. And I just think at his price, I think he's definitely worth trading in. Other than that, there's not really anyone else that I can think of. Obviously, Nathan Cleary should be higher than what he is, but I just think Talakai is too high on that list as well. But as I said, people are chasing that cash, so that's fine.
So the one I was hoping someone else would mention would be Isaiah Papali. So I think that my plan was to bring him in round 14, and that's still what I'm going to do. But if you're looking to bolster up your front row or even your second row, you can't go far wrong with Isaiah Papali.
Yeah, I'll say one that I really like, just moving forward, but a bit of a pod that's playing 13 as well. And I mentioned earlier, but and before we recorded, was Jazz Tavanga. Keep an eye on this guy. We all know what he can do. He's a freak when it comes to tackling. Curran being ruled out for, I think, 4 to 6 weeks with an MCL issue. The only issue there is we're in round 8 now. We've got potentially, we haven't had any news, but potentially 2 more rounds until Tohu Harris is back. So just wanted to keep an eye out. I really like, one of my plans was looking at going Randall to Tavanga. And I have Ruben Cotter on the second row as well. So having the interchangeable was actually appealing to me a little bit. So if I was to go Talakai this week, I could afford to go Randall to Tavanga, but I'm actually going to go Cleary instead. So that's one of the players that I think definitely tempted by, and he's 0.4% ownership as well. So a nice sneaky little pod there.
I think it's a great shout.
Yeah.
So would you go, if you're trading out Randall and you're looking to upgrade for a buy player, who would you prioritise over Starling or Tavanga?
Tavanga. But like you pointed out, Harris is due back. And the problem with Tavanga is that he's a victim to his own abilities, meaning that he often gets moved to the bench, to the lock, to second row or to front row or to hooker or wherever. He's Mr. Fix-It, so that can be his down. But the fact that Curran's out so long, and I'm not convinced that Harris is due back. And it's risk play, but I really like Tavanga. And we all know what he can do if he just gets enough minutes on the field. And I actually looked at his numbers today, even with the minutes he's had, and he's been scoring quite nicely.
His PPM's okay for the minutes he's been playing.
That's right, yeah. Look, I'd take the risk on him, mate.
Yeah, so and I already have Starling as well. So I'm one of those poor blokes that can't afford Grant. So luckily Starling's been smashing out 60s and 70s for me every week, so I've been surviving. But having the 2 hookers for the buy round would actually be pretty beneficial to me as well. So, but I'd be set on Cleary and I'd get Talakai, so I don't want to do that. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. The only thing I would say is with the Warriors, like with the second row and lock and stuff, their whole forward pack, they just move them around constantly. Like Eli Katoa's been in and out. You've got Sirinen who's in and out. Penne in and out. Like their forward pack is just never set. It can be just about like a different 6 or 7 guys every week and in different positions. And that's the hardest part. And I think out of all of those, I think Tavanga is almost the most volatile of all of them because he can play all of those positions. So he's the first bloke at any drop. He's the first bloke that ends up back on the bench because I know we won't start him in that position. We'll put him on the bench so that he can cover 3 positions if we need to. And I think that's the hardest part for him. Where I've got no doubt we've all owned him at some stage and he's been great for our teams over the years. But I think just as the Warriors are progressing, he seems to be that one bloke that just keeps dropping back a peg.
Well, he wasn't even in the team a few weeks ago, was he at all? He wasn't even in the team.
No. And that's what I mean. Then you've got Eli Katoa who played the first 3 rounds and has been played since. So, and they were talking him up in the preseason about how much of a gun he is. So it's a tough ask.
He's probably one to have a look at and see what sort of minutes he plays again this week because he's starting lock is near this week. So if he gets 80 minutes, he's definitely one to look at.
The only issue there is his break-even's very low as well. I think it's like 13. So
I don't see him getting 80 minutes, but I think that with that bench, I mean, they've got big minute forwards in Lodge and Aiden Fanua-Blake. They've got Murchie on the bench from memory and Katoa. So who they got? Yeah, I still think you'll see 55 to 60 minutes from him. And I think that he'll hold that lock position. I think that with Curran out, I don't mind it, mate. I think it's not a bad shout. I think it's risky. But
definitely risky.
I don't mind it.
Yeah, well, where I am, I'll go start taking risks, I guess. So
yeah.
Alrighty, let's move on to the top trade outs. We'll go for this a bit faster. So Schneider, number one on the list, top traded out. I love to say I disagree with this, but I know the reasoning behind it is to get Cleary. So I have to say I agree with this, Glenn.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's peaked at his price. Look, he's going to play around 13, and he is a play in your side on certain matchups. But I think if it's to get Cleary, it's a definite, move on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll echo those thoughts, Tim.
Yeah, mate, it's a difference between 60 to 80 or 160 to 180. It's a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, I really like it. I would have liked to have kept him in my team. That's actually how I got Hines in initially. Cleary, one or the other. And that was a month ago or whatever it was. But, yeah, he's you'd keep him if you can, but if Cleary, and it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely no-brainer if you're going to Cleary, but I hope people aren't trading him out to bring in T-Marie Martin to bank some cash.
Yeah, that's one that's a bit of a shock, that one. People are trading him in.
Yeah.
Especially with a week to wait as well. Alrighty, so next on the list there, this one actually I don't believe should be highly up there unless you have so many issues. I think Randall, I believe he's a sell, but I think if you've got no issues and then sell him. But I'm sure we've got more issues to deal with because he's got to break even that it's more than achievable for him.
Yeah.
If you have to play him, then maybe sell him, I guess. But I don't have to play him. I've got plenty of players. I've got 24 active players at the moment, so I don't need to play him. Glenn?
Well, I think you'll find that the people that are selling Randall are probably the people that are buying Pakes.
Yeah.
They're probably going Randall to Pakes, and it's probably because they're desperate for cash. They don't want to reap it from anywhere else, so they decide, look, I'll get Pakes. That's my sacrifice. That's my trade-off to Cleary. So I get why they're doing it. I would suggest they find another way. I just don't agree with that at all. I think that everyone should have Cook and Grant at some point, but one of those at least. And then the other one should be working towards a buy-round player. And Pakes isn't going to do it. Move Cotter up and look at some other option.
Yeah, that's it. Timmy, your thoughts on Randall sell, mate?
Yeah, exactly what Glenn just said. I've got no doubt it's for Pakes or Starling.
Yeah. And Ross?
I'd just be selling him to Starling. I wouldn't be selling him to Pakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's Starling, it's a great trade.
Yeah, that's it. All right, next on the list, and this one's a no-brainer. Curran out for 46 weeks. I think there's plenty of options around that price or even higher that you could go and trade him up. Or I wouldn't be trading him down though. That's my theory. That's my thoughts anyway. Your thoughts, Glenn?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's not much to discuss. The guy's injured. Move on. We're not going to keep that much money on our bench for that amount of time.
Yeah. So like I said before, my thoughts are I would not be trading him down. I think there's not the value in the second row is I don't believe it's there anymore. It was there at the start of the year, but those guys have all gone a bit more high now. So I believe now is the time to grab those guns. So Timmy, your thoughts on Curran?
Yeah. Again, guys, it starts to get a bit boring after a while. Exactly what you guys have said.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you mean the same thing there too, Ross.
Well, I was just going to say trade him to IPAP or to Talakai.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, perfect.
Go up, don't go down.
And I'm going to move on to the next one, which is a massive head scratcher. So there'll be plenty of thoughts here. Targo, number 4 trade out. I'm in shock. I understand people are probably rage trading him out from his little 31 last week, but that's his outlier. I don't get it. I'll stop talking now. Glenn, your thoughts, mate?
Mate, Penrith are a ceiling side, and the reason different rounds you're just going to get your centre wings aren't always going to get to play because sides coach to either go left or go right depending on the opposition that they're playing. So some rounds that's just how it's going to be for every centre wing you own. So if you're trading because of the one bad score, someone said earlier he's a season keeper. I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but I think he's a keeper up to round 17. I think that if you're holding for round 13 at least, you wouldn't be doing it before that. They've got a really nice draw up until round 17. So I'd be holding him and then you could, at a nice fatter, you could move him onto a Mulatalo or, somebody, a Norfoluma, as you alluded to before, or someone like that that's playing that second buy, which we'll talk about when we get to that section. But no, look, don't. Timmy?
Yeah, look, again, we understand why people are doing it to try and find the cash, but there's other ways to do it. When we've looked at Randall, we've looked at, I mean, some people are talking about Lachlan Ilias and trying to get cash out of there. It's just, he's a safe bet. He's, like I said, I've really got 4 playing centre wings. I've got a few more this week, but I've got 4 decent centre wings that I can count on week in, week out. And mate, he's definitely one of them. I'm not looking at getting rid of him at all. He may be a good 5th or 6th option later on in the season, but it'll come down to how the Panthers are going at the time. I think it's bonkers. I'll be holding.
Yeah, I think he's concrete in my team, like Glenn mentioned, until round 17. Like, and he's that perfect guy you can trade to that pod 17 buy player. Like, well, yeah.
I think the other thing with him too, like, I guess this goes back to like Ross sold Coates last week. I said it at the start of the season and early in the season. The problem with the Melbourne Storm wingers is they 120 or they go 12, and that's it. Coates has done that. He's had some very, very low scores. He's had a couple of really big scores. But I think when you've got centre wings like May and Targo, that 30's their worst. Like, that's their bottom basement ever involved. Yeah, so they're the kinds of guys that you've got to keep in your team, I think.
Yeah, and Ross, I'm sure you'd agree. Is there anyone you would prioritise trading out over Targo if you were to try to save that cash?
Oh, yeah, definitely Penasini. I'd be trading Penasini before I trade Targo. I mean, Targo's in a ceiling club, as we said earlier. He's going to play round 13. He's averaging about 60. He scored 31 last week and nearly scored a try. He's still averaging well. I'm probably going to hold him for the season, to be honest with you. I just don't think there's any reason to sell him. If you're downgrading him to Tass or to Suwali, find the cash elsewhere. Go Penasini, go Firma or something even instead. There's got to be other ways. I don't get it. Even if you're trading him, even if you said it earlier, if you're trading him to Talakai, for me, it's a no-go.
Yeah, well, that was a nice little segue into our final biggest trade. That was Fermor. Fermor I totally agree with him. I reckon he should be a lot higher on this as well. I think he's on the downward. And Titan, it's not so much him. He's a good little player, but I think it's the Titans on the downward, I reckon. So, Glenn, your thoughts on trading out Fermor?
Yeah, well, I imagine those that are trying to get to Talakai have looked at their side and thought, which one am I willing to sacrifice? And Firma's it. I think if you've got Firma at centre wing, I think he's doing the job. If you're playing him as a second rower, he's probably not. You know, like 40 at centre wing is not a bad amount of points, is it, as a base? But as a second rower, you know, you're kind of looking for a bit more. So I don't hate it. Just remember he does play the buy round. But, yeah, I mean, I can understand a Firma to go to Talakai. I don't hate that at all.
Yeah. Timmy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, look, I agree. I think something that Glenn just touched on, and he's going to be a solid buy player, and he's going to be a solid player in that Titans team when they're missing Fafita, they're missing Tina, and some of their other players quite possibly. So for me personally, I don't know. I actually like the guy. I like the way that he plays. He gets the ball a lot on that left-hand side of the Titans. They seem to go that way, and that's what's hurting Fifi so much, being on the right-hand side. So I don't know. Again, he's one of these ones where you can understand why people are selling him. But for me, I'd be holding, especially down in centre wing. I can understand it again up in second row, like Glenn was saying. But if you can get him back down to your second wing, I'd be trying to hold him down there if you can.
Yeah. Ross?
I think he's a hold. He's got dual position. He's playing round 13. Trade him off after round 13. The only thing, unless you're upgrading him to a gun, I wouldn't be downgrading him. Right, I wouldn't be downgrading him to like a Suwali or someone like that, but I'd be look to upgrade him to a Talakai or an IPAP or someone like that. But I wouldn't be downgrading him. I don't think he's scoring too bad at the moment. I'm happy to hold him at the moment until at least the first buy, and then I'll worry about it from there.
Can I just add something? So it's round 7 now. Round 8's where I usually start targeting my buy round players. You know what I mean? So if you're starting to trade them out, I mean, I'm not selling Firma. I own Firma. I'll just let people know now I'm not selling him. And, you know, I think people are looking at how to get all the guns quickly, and they're neglecting the round 13. They're about to have, you know, they're going to need all them buy round players. So they're going to end up starting to look for who to get. And, you know, Firma, I just think you're wasting trades. You know, you're going to have to bring someone in. Aiken and Firma, yeah, they're not scoring what we'd like, but they're still 2 buy round players that I think you should be holding on to.
And as Tim said, with Tino and Fafita both being out for Origin, it could benefit the rewards from that too. So I just think he's a hold.
Yeah,
As I said, unless you're trading him up to a gun, he's definitely a hold.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put another question to you guys. And I'm actually not an Nrl firmer. I've missed out on that guy as well. But if he's going to start dropping in price, would you suggest being a pickup for the Origin, actually a buy-in?
Absolutely.
Yeah, not now, but yes.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I mean, even in my write-up that I've done, which we'll speak about next week, is I think that Aiken could be even a decent pickup for near the bio period as well. Like if he drops enough in price as well. So,
100%.
again, dual position, it's handy. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that pretty much wraps up our market watch there. So let's move on. Glenn, you got some questions for us, mate. Some of our listeners have asked some questions.
I do. So why do you have a beard? No. I'm trying to be funny. No, I'm not very good at that. All right. So I've got 5 questions from people, 6 actually. I'll ask each one of you different. So the first question's from Anthony Huxtable, and he wants to know, Dylan Brown, he's been moved to centre wing. Is he a sell?
Who are you asking?
Well, I'll ask each one of you a different one. So I'll go. Do any of you own Brown?
Yeah, I do.
All right. So I'll go to you, Timmy. Is he a sell?
Oh, look, I don't want to. But if it's about the only way that I can generate any decent cash, like going him down to Cody Walker, I think, I don't know, see, a lot of people keep saying how good the South Jaw is coming up, but the South Jaw's been pretty good for the last few weeks, and Cody's been a bit of a flop. He's had one decent game so far. Yes, they are gaining momentum, but I'm still not sold on selling Brown down to Cody Walker. I know some of the other pods that I've listened to this week have said, it's a great trade, sideways at worst, but geez, I don't know. Even Brown last week, Brown still managed to get a lot of touches on the ball. So even playing at centre, he's still a bit of a strike weapon. Yes, it's not in his preferred position. Who knows what's going to happen with him next week. But, yeah, if it's a cash grab down to Cody to find 300K, then sure. But apart from that, I think he's a hold.
Well, I started Dylan Brown because points per dollar, he was better value, in my opinion, than Munster, and he done his job. And it's only been he played, I think it was round 2 at centre wing and scored me a 23. But then he came back in. Last week, he was looking really horrible up until he got that try. And so for me, I'm actually moving him on to Munster this round as well. That's my second trade. So Munster to Brown. But look, I had planned on holding him right up until the end of the second bye round. Like, he was doing just as well as Munster. He's averaging 71 something. I think it was 71. I had it written down somewhere. Yeah, 77.4. And he scored 77 last week playing at centre with a try. As you said, in the second half, he did get quite a lot of touches. Do either of you, Ross or Ross, do you think as well?
Well, I was just going to add 2 points on that. The number one point is that Opacek's named on the extended bench.
Yep.
Now, the benefit you've got is if you are looking to go Dylan Brown to Munster, that Parramatta do play before Melbourne, so you will know before the game starts. And the other thing is that Newcastle defence has been absolutely horrible this year, and he could absolutely have a field day. I don't know if he's up against the bloke that came in for Gagai, is he? Is he for Sasagi? If he's marking up against him, mate, he could easily turn up in the centres. Easily. So it's a hard one. I don't own him, but I don't know if I do if I was in Timmy's situation and yours, Glenn. I don't know, but it's a hard one. I guess the only thing you can look at is that he will play one of the buys, whereas Munster will be out both of the Origin games. So it's a tough one. So yeah.
Can I just say really quick, guys, on that Munster trade? Like, I watched that game really closely because I had I known that Brown was going to centre, it would have been a no-brainer for me. Like, it was obviously late in the afternoon and everything else that they made the switch. But I would have gone him to Munster last week. That would have saved losing some cash. But I watched the game last week with the Storm. Yes, they put on 70 points, but Munster made all his points in that last 15 minutes when he got moved to fullback.
Yeah.
So before he went to fullback, I think he was sitting on between 50 and 60 or something. So he scored a lot of points in that last 15 minutes when he went to fullback. He a couple of try assists. He went up 60 points in a snap.
That's
So-
the problem. That's the problem with that club too, is that they share the points around a lot too. Like one week Munster might score bad, but then Hughes will score really big. But obviously Paps will always be ultra consistent, but they share the points between Hughes and Munster as well. So
But
yeah,
when
that's
you-
the other
look,
thing to look at too.
when you think about it, though, 50 points after 60 minutes, doing pretty much not as much as what you think, is pretty solid. And if he kept playing in 5'8" and Pappenhausen was still a fullback, he would have got 70 points.
But I just mean they'd already put on 50 points. He was only on 55, 60.
Yeah, but I agree with that. But that was all with doing nothing. Did he get a couple of try assists? That's it. It was all the work was going through Hughes and Pappenhausen, and he still managed to get 50 in 60 minutes.
I didn't even notice he went to fullback. I thought they put Manny to fullback, but I obviously wasn't watching it properly.
No, apparently it was already organised. I think it was Pappenhausen was talking about it in his press conference afterwards that Munster had been given Bellyache a hard time for a few weeks, that he wants to run back at fullback. So apparently, yeah, as soon as they said they were going to rest his ankle, it
was already organised. When we hit 50 points, guys, we'll chuck you at fullback. Yeah.
Can you imagine if Pappenhausen had played 80? He probably could have racked up 200 that game if he stayed on for the rest of that game.
Easy.
That's exactly right.
That was scary. How scary.
I started the season with Brown, and I said to everyone that he was a better buy, and I maintained that was correct. I mean, he was 150k less. They're at the same amount. Well, they were last round at the same price point. Brown's been scoring every bit as good as Munster, but I think that this is the third time now that he's been moved to the centres, and Brad Arthur seems to have some love affair with his son. Fancy that, and trying to get him onto the field. And anyone that watches the game just knows that it all stops with him. It's terrible. But yeah, look, I if he gets named at 5'8" this round, I won't move to Munster. I mean, I've got the obvious. I'll trade him at that game. But anyway, that question's been answered. So the next question, and some of these we've already spoken about. So is Targo to Suwali sideways? We've answered that. Yeah. Right. I'll do this one last because I've got to work on this one. Righto. Is Talakai a must-have?
He was a must-have. I don't think he's a must-have at all. I don't like to use the word must-have in any sense of the word. I know the only one that I would consider right now that's a must-have is Cleary, and that's only because he's got an average that's bigger than any other half by a very, very long way. And I wouldn't even call him a must-have at the start of a season. He's the must-have to finish on as well.
He's a luxury.
Talakai, he's a luxury. Talakai is not a must-have. He's a pain in my ass because I haven't got him, and I have been watching him in my opponent's team every single week and getting destroyed. However, I missed the boat, and I'm happily going to wave that goodbye.
All right. I'll move on to the next one. So this is from Alan. He's asked two questions. He says, is Moses now a sell and is Josh King? I'll answer on Moses quickly, and I'll hand it to you guys for Josh King. So I would hold Moses unless if you're going Moses to Cleary, do it. But if you've got Moses and Cleary, hold. And then round 10 is where I'd be looking to move him on. Round 10, the Parramatta draw gets a lot tougher. And although a lot of the bigger sides tend to all be facing each other from round 10 up to 13. So, I mean, half a dozen to 1/6 of the other. But I think Moses will sell round 10 unless it's to Cleary now. But the other one is Josh King. So I'll ask you, Ross, what do you think of Josh King? Is he a sell?
I think he is, but he's been pretty consistent though. That's the thing. Like he's still chugging away nicely, but now that what's his name's going to come back into the team? What's his name? Tua Kamaki, is it?
Kamika, yeah.
Because he's going to come back onto the bench. So does he eat into his minutes? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he will because I think obviously you've got what's his name playing lock as well. Thank you, Brendan Smith. That was the one. So I don't think he's a must sell. I think he's if you don't have any other issues, then move him on. But if you've got other issues to fix elsewhere, hang on to him. He does get some decent attacking stats too, so I don't think he's a must sell.
Dan?
I will say, because I know he's got that dual positioning as well. A lot of people have him. I'm also one of the guys that hasn't got him. If you're going to sell anyone to downgrade to someone like Suwali, I think he ranks higher than Targo, Tennessini. If you sold him, because I think he's starting to go down in cash now, he's not going to kill you. He's going to score decent scores for you. But I would sell him before any of those guys to get to Swiley and build that cash.
Jimmy?
Yeah, look, I agree. I'd be trying to find a way to keep him. I think the Storm really like him. They like what he's done so far. He keeps getting rewarded with big minutes when there's other big names in that forward pack. Look, I'd probably sell him before I sell Max King, as I think Max King's still got a bit more money to make. But as far as somebody that you've got to play in your team every week, I've got Max King. I don't have Josh King, but yeah, I think he's still a safe play. As like if you've got Hart and Josh King, if you've got IPAP and Josh King, like I think he's a great partner for those guys up the front. If you need the cash, then sure, I'd certainly be cutting him before I cut probably even Penasini, Targo. Yeah.
So we said all we really need to say, but I'll just add a little bit on that. So if you're selling Firmo, as you just said, or a Targo or one of those kind of players to get to Talakai, then go Josh King. Josh King's a perfect time. He's ripe and ready to move, but he's not a priority sell. So, I mean, he offers you really good depth at fullback, at front row. I mean, we looked at Haas this week, who could have very well been injured. He would have been the ideal person to move over with Ming and Jing. So, that's my perspective on that. There's two more questions. I'll answer this one. And I feel like, do any of you watch the AFL football show? Turn it up. Oh, well, I feel like this is one where that's how this should be answered. Should I be selling Pat with his injury? And we all together say,
no.
Turn it up.
No deal. No deal.
Turn it up. And the last one. So I'll answer this one myself because I did a bit of work for you. They asked what is the best players to own through the buy round. Now, what you're really asking me is the best play. What people are thinking to themselves is, who do I buy for 13 that's got a good run after that? If that's the question you're asking, then the answer to that would be Penrith and the Cows. The Cows play Titans, Dragons, Manly and Broncos, and the Panthers play Dogs, Knight, Warriors, Roosters. Then there's a couple others as well that we could go through. But what you really want to look at, and we'll do more work on this as we talk about buys next round, is I'll have a look at who's got a better run for 17. So after round 13, you really want to look at who's got a nice draw coming up that you can buy and own for 17, or even own beyond. So we'll do a bit of work behind the scenes, all of us, and we'll try and put together some kind of chart to help people navigate the buys as we get closer. But round 10 is where I start really focusing. Round 8, I sort of take a little peek, I'm making a trade. So that's all I have in the questions, mate.
Yeah, so that question there, I like that question, but I normally, like you said, I focus on getting those players. Like obviously they want to know who's the best one to bring in this week or soon that's going to have a good run for longer. I tend to do that for round 17, not round 13.
Yeah.
So you can have, so that way you bring in those players that go, who has the best run, who plays 17 and who has the best run on. So because you want to have your finished team around 17. So it's a good question. I really like that one. So we'll definitely dive more into that as well next week when we talk about our buy strategies as well. So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you don't want to just bring a player in for the plays round 13 and then 2 weeks later you're trading them out. You want to bring, like you said, it's not. You don't want to do that. From 17 onwards is where you should be looking at.
Yeah,
the good side should already have around 12 now. At least 10 for the buy round. A lot of people are thinking, I can max trade and get to round 13. Good players don't do that. Good players usually have navigate it well enough so that by round 17 they've got the numbers they want. Some of them will run 15 because they want to keep 2-gun halves or 2-gun fullbacks or whatever, and then they'll start to work that. But it's from round 13 to 17 where you really want to concentrate on either, like you said before, buying that one game player that we can nuff out, or buying that potential keeper, or players that are going to build up through that round that play really well, play round 17, then we sell them back to the players that have played Origin and bringing them back in. So yeah, we'll do some work on that.
I'm not a good player this year, Glenn, by any means, but I think I've already got 13 for round 13 anyway. And that's pretty much without prior planning already. That's just from having a load of Roosters and Panthers players in my team as well.
Yeah, that's right. Most of them have those players too, mate.
Yeah, I've got 11 of them at the moment, and my strategy at the moment is to my trade. If I make 2 trades a week, each trade has to involve one buy player. So I'm getting one more every week. So and that way I'm focusing on points as well as the future as well. So All good. All right, that's all the questions. I hope we answered those pretty well. Before we go, let's quickly discuss our trades and captain's choices. What are your plans for trades this week, Glenn?
So I'm bringing in Talakai for Elise Katoa. So I had a bit of a bank build up, so I was a little bit fortunate. And then my second trade's going to be Brown to Munster. Yeah, so that's my two trades.
Yeah, sounds good. Timmy?
Yeah, look, like I said earlier, I'm not 100% sold, but I'm trying to find a way to get Talakai in without damaging the team that I've built so far while I've been trying to catch everybody else.
I hear Pakes is a good downward grade, mate.
Probably.
Ross, what are your trades looking like this week?
Bringing in Cleary this week. I don't know who else I'm trading out, but I've got a boost to get him in. So that's one's locked and loaded. Cleary's in. I don't know about the rest yet. Still playing around with it.
Yeah, all right. I'll get the balls out and not be as vague as you two guys. So I'm gonna go. I'm actually using the boost this week. I've only used the one so far, so I'm using a boost. I'm going Schneider out, Ilias out, bringing in Cleary, Cody Walker, and to fund this, this is a very sideways move. I'm actually going to go for Feeder out, and I'm bringing Tom Lolo down to the second row, and I'm bringing in Musgrove from Tigers as a slow burn cash grab. He's got a very low break even. He's played 48 minutes the last 2 games and getting 1 point per minute. So he's 311k at the moment. So I can put him in the front row on the bench. Don't need to play him. Happy to rest him there and let him go up a bit in the price. So, and that's me.
That's a strategy people often use too, is they'll trade down one gun to bring in 2 guns or one fallen gun. I get it. I think that's a good trade. I still think people need to be careful on trading for Feeder out. He's still averaging 71.
Oh, no. If seeing that I'm trading him out this week, I'd bring him in if I was you guys. Every time I trade a player out, they go nuts. So I'd bring him in and captain him, guys. But the reason why I'm doing these trades is because I know that a lot of the points are coming from the halves this year.
Yep.
And if I do these 3 trades, my halves, I'll have Cleary and Hines in the halves, and Munster and Cody Walker in the 5'8" position. That's 4 guns, or I'm still hoping on Cody Walker to be a gun, but yeah, it's 4 guns right there ready to go. So I'm pretty happy with those trades. Glenn, how are we going with VC and captain, mate? What are your plans there?
Mine's going to be pretty generic at this point, mate. I think it's going to be VC, Hines, C, Cleary.
Yep. Timmy?
My VC, if I bring him in, it'll be Talakai and captain Cleary.
Yeah, and Ross?
VC, Cleary and C on Paps.
Yeah, I think I like that one too. What I will say, and I'm actually going to VC Hines and captain Cleary as well. And the reason behind not, I believe they're going to go that right side. I think Talakai is going to be marked man on that side, and Hines going to get more ball, and that's why I'm going to VC Hines. So I'm really, really hoping that Hines gets a nice little 120 for me. So one last thing before we go, guys. I know you probably haven't been here the last 2 weeks. We've been doing some bold predictions. So I'll start with you. We'll make it easy for you. Just do 1 bold prediction per person. So, Ross, any bold predictions this week, mate?
Talakai to score under 50.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, God.
Nice. I love it. And Timmy?
I'm going to go really bold, especially for this season. I'm saying Teddy's going to ton up this week.
Yeah. I've been saying that for the last 4 weeks.
And Glenn?
So I was going to say the same thing about Talakai, but under 70. But instead, I'm going to go really dumb, and I'm going to say that Cleary goes 180 plus versus the Titans.
I'm liking these bold predictions. They sound very sexy to me.
They got 225 in Magic Round versus the Titans last time they played. I just think that he's just been going through the motions and still pumping out 150 scores. I'm putting him down to get a try and 4 try assists.
Cool. Well, all these bold predictions are going to help me. So I'm going to make one more that's going to help me even more. Cody Walker, 130 plus. So that's my... So that, I reckon, it's his 150th game as well. So I'm really hoping he steps up for it. And I reckon Tass is going to help him out a lot too. So
I think Teddy's in for a good round too versus the Dogs. Although you're not going to like this one, but on our bold predictions, here's one I'm going to say that's going to shock a lot of people. Dogs to beat the Roosters, Tigers to win as well. So Dogs and Tigers to win this round.
Jeez. That's
up there.
3 in a row.
That means now that Roosters are going to turn up this week and win by about 50.
That's something. I still think Teddy will score 100 and Dogs will still win.
Oh, God.
Teddy is going to repay my faith this week.
Yeah,
I don't think Dogs have got enough points in them to win this game.
I think the Gus rev-up's just going to have Flanagan come out and, just go off.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps everything up tonight. Anything else we want to talk about before we head off?
No.
All good.
Go the Tigers.
Yeah.
3 in a row. Here we go. Yeah.
Thanks,
guys,
for coming on and helping us out.
Right.
Brody's in recovery mode at the moment.
All right. Enjoy, guys. See you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to win. I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy.